A little discussed aspect of the migrant crisis is the number of people who get into this country that we know nothing about. We learned over the weekend that in the last week, six came across in the same boat. All six of them suspected of being terrorists. Intent on causing problems here in Britain, blowing up buildings and what have you. They've kept a handle on three of them, but they've lost the other three. Now, all the time, which doesn't fill you with confidence, does it? But all the time, we're having hundreds of people a week, sometimes more, coming across the channel in small boats and dinghies. And the first thing they say is, I've lost my passport, I've lost my documents. After that, we're in their hands. The only story we get is their story. We don't know who they are. The security aspects of this are getting more worrying by the day, aren't they?
Hugely worrying. And we were seeing an awful lot of Albanian criminals coming across, and then the UK managed to get a special deal with Albania to get them turned around and sent back to Albania very quickly indeed. And that's eased a bit of it off. But the six terrorists are ones that have got into the public domain. How many more have not got into the public domain out of the thousands that are coming across the channel? This has been a threat that's going on for quite some time.
As well as terrorist organisations trying to get their wrong-uns into our country, I think it's 19 known terrorists have crossed the channel, which is pretty alarming. Where are they? It strikes me that increasingly this sort of mass migration and illegal migration is being used as a weapon of war by hostile states. I say this because there's been reports of the Taliban now controlling people trafficking routes, other reports of Wagner mercenaries being involved in the exodus of people throughout the Sahel in Africa, and other reports again of planes taking off from Turkey, that time to go over to South America to flood the American borders. Can you talk a little bit more about that and potentially how some pretty dodgy regimes who certainly aren't our friends are actually controlling and using these migratory flows to upset the West?
Oh, the movement of people is being used as a weapon in a number of different ways. One, to infiltrate criminals into countries and help destabilise and put additional pressure on the police. Two, to infiltrate terrorists into different countries to try and destabilize things from a political perspective. Three, as an information weapon to try and destabilize things from a political perspective and create political debate, as we're seeing across Europe. And then four, to try and put pressure on borders and elsewhere. And we've only seen in the last 48 hours, Finland say it's closing its border with Russia because Russia is pushing refugees that have come from the Sahel and from elsewhere in from the Russian-Finnish border. Belarus did this last year in towards Poland, and Poland had to close its borders. And there's now talk of Denmark closing its borders because Russia will shift the refugees, in inverted commas, refugees that has got there from Finland down to try and get them in towards Denmark and other Baltic states. The movement of people, and some of them are poor people who are escaping from very horrible conditions and are rightly refugees. A lot of them are economic migrants, and they'll just go where they're told to go, especially if someone's giving them a hot drink and a warm bed in the process of getting them in there. And they are being used as a weapon. It's horrible.
Philip, let me ask you, talking about undesirables who managed to remain in this country for an inaudible amount of time. We were discussing a character called Yaqub Ahmed this morning. Now, 5 years ago, he was in the process of being deported from Britain because he's a Somalian. He was being taken back to his own country. He was a gang rapist. Convicted gang rapist. Bunch of do-gooders on the plane decided that all deportations must be wrong, and they essentially got him taken off the plane. He managed to remain here another 5 years, and that cost us, the British taxpayer, more than £1 million in his legal aid. He's going back now, but one of the big defence witnesses, the expert witnesses that helped him stay, was the BBC's Africa editor, who was called up as an expert witness to say what danger this character would be in if he went back to Somalia. What is a journalist employed by the BBC doing at a hearing like this as an expert witness?
Well, again, we live in a free and democratic society, so defence will call witnesses that they think can help prove their case. So we can't criticize someone for being called and giving their opinion. I don't know what she said. However, I think what it does is it highlights the reason why so many people like to come to the UK is because we've got this system that enables people to stay for long periods of time by just questioning elements of the whole process, and it delays and delays and delays, and we as taxpayers end up paying for it, whilst the individual who's a potential threat that's sitting there, some have been convicted, some haven't, sitting there, have to be monitored by the police and the security services, again costing us taxpayers huge amounts of money. This is where our whole process is broken. We find that in European countries, I'm seeing anecdotal evidence that they're returning people quicker than us, and they're subject to the same European human rights rules and regulations that we are. It's got nothing to do with EU membership, but I don't understand how other countries can return people very, very quickly. And we have so many problems getting people onto a simple flight out of this country.